and when I used to patrol the campus as a law enforcement officer, many times students approached and said, I enjoy the shooting sports. I brought a firearm with me to school, but I have to lock it up in the police armory, and then we have to have an officer go unlock it and give it to them and then put it back in when they're done. They say, why can't I keep it in my vehicle on campus or in my dorm room? Well, that's a good question. I mean, I don't understand why people's Second Amendment rights go away to a degree just when they step on campus. Now, there are concerns. Some people say, well, this could lead to trouble. Well, I patrolled that campus for many, many, many years. We didn't have those problems. We have to have a little faith in our Idaho citizens. I mean, they're college students. They're just as intelligent and law-abiding as anyone else. And quite frankly, many people on campus are carrying already for their own, safety and protection, which I don't advocate if it's against the law, but, there is a need for it.
Very good. All right, Brian, what's your take on this bill? Like I said, we've seen this before in various forums and various sides of the State House.
Senator Foreman brought this last year, but he filed it as a personal bill, so it had no chance of passing. It was just a statement. So I'm very glad to see that he's brought it as an actual bill and that it has now been printed by the Senate State Affairs Committee. It's a very short bill. It's just one paragraph. It says that essentially that colleges and universities, public colleges and universities, can't go restricting your Second Amendment rights. There seems to be a debate over what college is, and college students, are they adults who have all the same rights as everyone else, or are they children that need to be protected and need to have gun-free zones and safe spaces from speech and things they don't want to hear? And that's another debate as well. But I think this is pretty straightforward. If you can carry concealed one place, why not another? Especially if you're a college student and this is your home, and you might consider having to defend yourself at some point.
Yeah, I agree. This is a bill that we're going to keep tabs on for sure. Senate Bill 1008. So folks, add that to the list. We're going to start a running list. Yeah. We're going to start a running list on this program here of the bills we watch. And if you were with us last year, there were certain bills, man, they'd hit those roadblocks and we would just activate y'all. And Brian Miller just posted, shall not be infringed. That is the key here, my friend. Absolutely. Okay, good. Well, we'll keep tabs on that. Now, next here, this is an interesting bill because Dan, Senator Foreman he's been trying to get answers, just like the rest of us, when it comes to the COVID pandemic. And he's taken a different approach here with wanting to just find out so that way we don't repeat the mistakes. And he talked a lot in this presentation about how he's not looking to hang anybody or shame anybody. Maybe he's just leaving that up to us to do, because I certainly will do that. But he's trying to be diplomatic here and just get to the bottom of some of these answers. So that's something I can appreciate on this. So let's take a look at a clip here.
Safety background in the Air Force. I was chief of safety for a large air refueling wing. And I know this isn't the military, it's a different environment. But in the military, under penalty of law, when there was something that didn't go according to Hoyle, something bad, someone hurt, someone killed, property damage, I think exceeding $1 million, we were required within 24 hours to investigate and put out a report. And then we had to follow up sequentially with more reports and brief the entire crew force, Air Force wide. And the reason for that is to prevent that tragedy from happening again. So all I'm asking for here in good faith is just a look-see at what we did and to see if we could do better. I am not pointing fingers at anybody or looking for a pound of flesh or trying to embarrass anybody. And I think if we could do this in an academic atmosphere, it could be done well without embarrassing anybody, and the state would be better off for it.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Shippey.
Yeah, there we go. They agreed to print the bill, Brian. So that's good. So again, this will be a concurrent resolution that will launch a committee.
Yeah, it would create a committee to investigate the response of the state of Idaho and other government entities to the COVID pandemic, and whether or not those responses violated the law or constitutional rights or circumvented anything. Uh, it seems like so far away now. It seems like a long time ago. A lot of people just want to move on and move forward. But if we're going to potentially face another pandemic of some sort, we need to be ready not just to handle it, but also to handle it properly, according to the law, according to the Constitution, in a way that respects the rights of individuals. Think back to February, March, April of 2020. It was a mad rush as there was no regard for the law, no regard for the Constitution, no regard for the rights of individuals or of business owners or of churches. Governments were just falling over each other to do emergency declarations and mask mandates and shutdowns and stay-at-home orders. And yeah, we need a reckoning for that. And I agree with Senator Foreman. This isn't necessarily going to be a witch hunt to search for somebody to put the blame on, but we need to see how that happened and how we can prevent it from being happening again in the future.
Yeah, I agree. And what you just said reminded me of a scene from The Office when there's a fire drill that happens, and like Michael Scott runs out and go, okay, it's happening. And the whole place just like goes bananas. And it's as if it was if our government was acting the same way. Like they're just like, oh my God, this is what we were built for. And then they just like threw everything at the wall. Shut this down, close that up, do this, wear that, stay away from here, stay away from there, get a jab, get this. I mean, it was just like, it was absolute mayhem. The further we get away from all that, the more I just look back and think, these people were insane. They were absolutely insane. And we need to get some of these insane people out of there. So yeah. I appreciate Dan Foreman saying, let's go back, look at the mistakes. I'm going to take those findings if this thing gets through. And then we're going to go find those people again and make sure that they are not in positions of power or that they have those powers stripped of them. And I think that's part and parcel goes with some of these other bills that have been stopped before, like banning masks, mask mandates and that sort of thing. Maybe this legislative committee will have these findings that then those bills can stand upon and have a bigger base of foundation to get through. Because I don't know if we're going to see a bunch of these trying to mitigate government force get through the legislature without some sort of in-house expert, findings. I don't know.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay. Well, like we said, Dan Foreman had a bunch of his other bill that he had up there. We don't have a clip for would ban the World Health Organization from having any sort of control or influence over Idaho. It would keep the WHO out of Idaho. So he that one also I think got printed. And then this last one here is a total repeal of a statute, just total repeal. And again, this is something that he's brought forward before. I've seen it multiple times brought on the House side, on this side. And this would just remove language from our Constitution, I believe, Alman.
Not the Constitution, just Idaho Code. It would be
the code.
Idaho Code 46-802, which was originally passed in 1927, that prohibits unorganized militias. So you're not allowed to have a group of men get out and, train with weapons and call themselves a militia, though I don't think it's enforced because I know of at least a couple of groups that are doing that now. But it also disallows such groups from then participating in parades with their names and carrying weapons. But yeah, that section of law comes from 1927, as Senator Foreman said in the hearing, that it's an ancient statute. It denies both the First and the Second Amendment, and so why not get rid of it?
Yeah, why not get rid of it? So just for kicks, folks, let's watch Dan Foreman present this RS.
RS 31840.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This proposed legislation repeals Section 46-802 of Code. This section of code became law way back in 1927. The only impact on the general fund would be the cost to disseminate and change the code. Idaho Code 46-802 prohibits a body of men from associating together as a militia or as a military company or organization. The code calls this type of association prohibited unorganized association. It also prohibits a body of men from parading with firearms in any city or town in the state of Idaho. The code also requires the permission of the governor for military science students, otherwise known as ROTC cadets, to parade or drill with firearms. Idaho Code 46-802 should be repealed because it directly violates the First and Second Amendment rights of the citizens of Idaho as found in the Bill of Rights. The code also violates Article 1, Sections 9, 10, and 11 of the Constitution of the state of Idaho with respect to freedom of speech, the right of assembly, and the right to keep and bear arms. This proposed legislation does not take a stance on the issue of militias per se, although the militia concept dates back to the days of George Washington, who was a strong proponent of militias. And many do not realize that all able-bodied citizens in the state of Idaho between the ages of 18 and 45 are members of the Idaho Unorganized Militia. The militia concept of volunteer service is still alive today in the form of community watch groups and citizen augmentees to aid law enforcement in times of crisis. I ask your support in repealing this ancient Idaho Code 46-802.
Thank you, Senator Foreman. Questions? Senator Adams?
Mr. Chairman, for a motion.
Motion's in order.
Mr. Chairman, there we go. I move that we send RS.
Yeah, very good. All right, it went to print, so we'll have a hearing on that later. Any other thoughts on that one, Brian?
Oh, it's interesting to note that I'm a member of the unorganized militia, technically. We'll see if anything comes of that before I turn 45. But looking at the bills that Senator Foreman introduced today, it's just a reminder that every legislator comes from a different background and they have different priorities. And it's good that we throw them all together and they, can mix those ideas. He's focusing on things like, concealed carry on college campuses. That is a civil rights issue that we need someone championing, and, examining the COVID response, and also, looking at parts of law that are maybe not so good, but they've just been there forever and nobody's thought to do anything about them. So it'll be interesting to see this debate play out.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully with the reinforcements of more conservatives on the Senate and the House side, that some of these bills can finally get over the hump. Because like I said, we've seen a bunch of the variations of these bills over the years just get stalled out. So, all right, Brian, well, where can people follow you? I want to wish you off a good weekend, but make sure people know where to follow you.
All right. GemStateChronicle.com is where all my stuff is. I'll be adding some of these bills to the session snapshot over there. So check that out as well. At GemState Brian on X, where I live tweeted the SCR 101 hearing this morning, and I'll continue to do that throughout the session. If you're in the Idaho Falls area, I'll be speaking at an East Idaho Patriots event tomorrow night.
Fantastic. All right. Well, make sure you check him out and ask and go. If you're in Eastern Idaho, go check out Brian tomorrow if you can. All right, Brian. Have a great weekend. We'll see you. We'll see you next week. Enjoy the inauguration.
Thanks, Matt.
All right.